I had 8 teams ahead of Gentlemates coming into Copenhagen. Now, it wasn't a question of talent necessarily. I mean, Itachi had been to 8 previous S tier events going back to Season X, and Seikoo won a chip in the 21-22 season, so it definitely wasn't a matter of talent. If anyone was a question, to be completely honest with you, it was Juicy. Going off past lands, Juicy had, shown some flashes of excellence, but left some stuff on the table that kept me from diving all the way in on him. For example, in last year's World Championship, Juicy was with Moist alongside Cash and Joyo, and they contended against FaZe in the group stage. Juicy was huge to put them up in Game 4. Then he faded in Game 5 and Game 6. He recorded 1 save on 3 shots, and it was fine. They didn't really need him. They ended up beating FaZe, but I walked away from that series a little iffy on whether or not Juicy was going to be able to perform as they got into the later stages, especially in front of the crowd. It seemed like his statistics and gameplay had dipped from what we had seen in the wild card. Poor performance against G2 with some shaky defense. They end up getting swept out of that series and eliminated from World Championship contention, but hey, the team didn't really look super cohesive anyways. G2 was awesome. At the end of the day, what are you going to do? Ultimately, Moist decided to move on from Juicy. And I remember at the time, it was a little bit before the World Championship, but Joyo and maybe Rise were on the Chalkcast, and they had kind of asked about the team. Like, how are things going? How do you like your teammates? And his response, while I'm almost certainly overreading it to a certain point, I remember standing out to me because when they asked him how he felt about his teammates, he said, Cash is awesome. I love teaming with Cash. And Juicy will, I'm paraphrasing, but Juicy will eventually be good. And the way that I took it was, hey, Cash is sick. Love teaming with Cash. Not over the moon about Juicy and his performance. And it made sense. Juicy never really found his footing on that team for me. It was always Joyo and Cash trying to score, and Juicy was put in this weird situation to try and, create for them off ball and also play some defense, which was a far cry from what brought Juicy up to the main stage in the first place. When he was on Juicers, which got picked up by Heat, he was kind of the do-it-all dude for that squad. He was the goal scorer, he was the defender, he was the primary creator. So to go to a Moist roster where he was none of those things is, it's kind of a tough spot. It's kind of like when LJ left Oxygen to join SSG, and it was like, hey, we need you to create for Daniel. Just a different look. Not that he couldn't do it, but it just wasn't optimal for Juicy. So let's fast forward. He gets put onto the best leftovers squad you could think of, which is a ton of French talent. Itachi gets left off of KC. Seikoo gets pulled off of BDS. And Juicy from Moist gets the even further call up to join this new Gentlemates squad. And I remember in the first open qualifier watching and being like, gosh, they look like they're having so much fun. This is definitely a team that is going to be able to go far in this region. And some lackluster performance is partially due to them, partially just due to the overwhelming talent that we found in the European region to start out the season. But in any way, I had 8 teams ahead of Gentlemates coming into the event. I was left with one takeaway that I think is important that I kind of alluded to from Moist, but Juicy possessed tremendous talent, but his lack of consistency and some big defensive lapses, especially in big moments, it just meant Juicy wasn't ready for prime time, and that was fine. It's early in his career, maybe a new situation where he's not relied on as much. I had Seikoo Revenge Tour on my early season bingo card, and Itachi, has made a career out of making his teammates better. Maybe this is a good situation for him. 8 months later, yesterday, Juicy just became the MVP of a LAN in which this team won, and that's definitely partially to me underrating Juicy in a situation that didn't suit his skills, but it's also due to Juicy simply put leveling up. In this tournament, And especially in the playoffs, Juicy showed brilliant decision making and poise. He was calm, he was composed on the defensive end, in the box, and in transition. He broke out of his defensive half easily with some pretty creative flicks to make space, and he put away some unbelievable shots in huge moments. He didn't have the best scoring series against Gen G in the quarterfinals, but 5 assists, 13 saves, very impressive. As we're gonna see Juicy continue to ice up down the stretch here against G2. Against Carmine Core, he was great. 4 and 4 on goals and assists, 12 saves. He was there in big moments when they needed him. Seikoo felt a little shaky, and to be able to neutralize Vatira in the way that this roster did, while also seeing Seikoo have a lackluster series, is a huge credit to Itachi and Juicy and what they were able to do. Two players who haven't always had, the peak performances of their careers at big stages, as Juicy is going to put this one away in G2 in a series that he was incredible. 4-3-6, big shots, including that overtime winner to put them ahead. I, at the same time, can believe it and cannot believe it. Juicy is an MVP. He has really found his home with this roster, and I cannot wait to see what Gentlemates have in store as we prepare for Major 2. What did you guys make of his performance? Did you think that he was the MVP? Would love to hear your thoughts below. Guys, I had just an awesome week of Rocket League. What a tremendous event that we were blessed with. Thank you all for stopping by and checking out the video. And until next time, guys, take it easy.